Hey guys, I just wanted to come on here for a little bit and talk about my personal fitness journey and how I got started and how that led me to where I am today. Just a little bit about my background. I started off in high school. Actually, let's take it back to middle school. Currently I'm 22. And in middle school, I was really skinny. I mean, like stick figure. Like I turned sideways and you couldn't barely see me. So I ran cross country and I was really skinny, but I was a good runner and I was able to run for long distances. I had great endurance and I had never picked up a weight in my life, but I was a runner and I was good at it. And then I went to high school and I started rowing. So my school had a lake that our school was on, and I got onto the rowing team and actually started doing that like 2 times a day. Like the practices for rowing were insane, but again, it was mostly cardio. And you do build a little bit of muscle because you're driving with your legs, you're like pulling with your back, so you build a little bit of muscle. But honestly, I don't think I know I was not eating enough to actually build muscle from that. So whatever energy I was using, there was nothing left over to build muscle from. I just simply wasn't eating enough, looking back on it now with the knowledge I have. So did that for 3 years, maybe almost 3 years actually. And while we were rowing, we had a coach who actually was a personal trainer on the side, and we would do these morning workouts in the gym at my high school, and he would take us through like a circuit, so like kind of like a boot camp training. And I really fell in love with like deadlifting. We would do these seal rows where you'd be on this bench and you'd row. It was a really good isolation exercise for the back, and I really fell in love with how I was feeling. And I actually started to see my body change a little bit. And I remember the first time I cut up a t-shirt to turn into a tank top because I actually liked what I was seeing. And for the past 5 years or so, I was ashamed of my body because I thought it was so skinny and scrawny, and it was just embarrassing because I was so damn gangly at 16, 15 years old. And so I finally started to see a little bit of muscle, and it was because of these workouts that the coach had us do. And then I would go to the gym and work out with a friend on the side, like whenever we had an off day, or we'd stay after practice a little bit and do some more lifting. And I actually really started to see the results right around the time that I turned 16, because I remember I got my car, and that was when I was first seeing some changes with my body. Now, keep in mind, I was still like 150 pounds, 6 foot tall, so I was still really skinny. But for a 16-year-old who just started off at 120 when he started this sport, big difference. So a little bit of time goes on. Winter of probably 13 or 14 something, whatever that was, my junior year of high school, the winter semester, I really hurt my back rowing. And that was it for me, because I had been rowing for 3 years and my back was always an issue, and I just couldn't keep rowing because I had so much inflammation in my back. I was getting cortisone shots, MRIs, seeing a chiropractor all the time, going to the place, whatever the hell it's called, where you get the cortisone shots. Like, I tried everything. I tried acupuncture, and one of my discs was just swollen or something, from just so much overload of rowing. Like, it's this massive lake and you're just going around it, like literally without stopping every day. And on top of that, you have indoor practices on the erg, which is the rowing machine, where you're doing this for like an hour and a half. So over time, it just led to like a chronic inflammation. But anyways, I remember one day I was in Wyandotte, which is where our water tanks were, which is basically you row indoors, and it's like a pool, and then on the side there's like a simulated rowing thing where you're on a slide and there's an oar, and that allowed us to actually get some practice in the winter time when the lake was frozen. And I remember that it was there that was my last time I ever rowed. Maybe not the last time, but like probably the last time I was in practice, a real practice. And I had to get up mid-practice because my back was in so much pain. And down the hall from where those tanks, they were called tanks, was a weight room. And I had never really done weights by myself. Like, I had done the boot camp classes with the coach. I had done it with friends. Did not know what the hell I was doing. And I just went in there. I remember I got on the bench press. I was benching the bar, and it felt amazing. I loved it. I think I just fell in love with the pump. I fell in love with how amazing, like, the contractions felt, and I don't even remember what I was doing. Like, I don't even remember what kind of exercises I was doing. I just know that after that, I was hooked on lifting. And I kept lifting a couple days a week for that rest of the school year. And I started watching these YouTube videos on Mike Chang, who was one of the original fitness YouTubers. He started a channel called Six Pack Shortcuts. And then I started watching Elliot Hulse, who I still kind of follow to this day. But he was really, really big back in 2013, 2012, 2014, right when fitness was emerging on YouTube big time. And I just started watching them. I just remember sitting at my desk in my room at night every day and just watching these guys and their lifting videos and their technique and talking about these different, like, they would do, some of them would do powerlifting, some of them would do bodybuilding. I also watched Athlete X, who had more of a scientific approach to lifting, and learned a lot about, like, anatomy and physiology and just the body from him, and how I could actually create my body based on how I wanted it to look from lifting. Whereas rowing, you were going to look a certain type of way no matter what you did. I mean, there's only one way to do things. But lifting, I learned I could sculpt my body to how I want. And I started lifting a few days a week, and then the summer came, and I got a membership at our local LA Fitness in Birmingham. So after that, I really started to see my body change. I mean, a couple times a week in the spring, I was lifting, and then when summer came along, I got that gym membership. I got around people who were bigger, stronger, more experienced than me, and it just took me to a whole nother level. And I actually had an uncle at the time who was really into lifting. He was really big. I'm pretty sure he had done some steroids back in the day or some growth hormone or something, but this dude was big, and he inspired me too. And I lifted there like probably 3, 4, or 5 times a week during the summer, and kept watching these YouTube videos, kept learning more, and that's really when I saw my body start to change, was senior year. And I probably went from 150, 145, 150 to in the 170s, I would say, at least, for my senior year. And then I played golf my senior year a few times a week, so I wasn't lifting like every day, 5 days. But I was serious about it. I loved lifting, and I was getting bigger and bigger. And then I actually started to get really pudgy because I was eating these peanut butter and Nutella sandwiches all day. And I knew nothing about nutrition. I just knew I needed to eat more than I was eating before, because I was not eating it like much before, and that's why I wasn't making much progress. So I got pretty pudgy my senior year. I was still lifting a lot, and I was probably pushing 190, 180s, 190, but it was not a good look because I had muscle, but there was a lot of body fat on top of it too. But hey, that's where you start. You got to do a little bit of a dirty bulk to get those initial gains going. And I would recommend that to anyone who starts their fitness journey, because you can definitely cut down from there. Just getting that foundation is the hard part, to be honest. Because, you know, when you lift, you're tearing down a muscle and then rebuilding it stronger. But when you don't really have a muscle to tear down to begin with, it's a lot harder. So did that through senior year. Summer came along. I was getting ready to go to college, and I lost a lot of the fat. So now I was back down to the 170s. And I had a little bit of muscle. I'm thinking of an exact picture of myself where I had my hand on my hip. I had a little bit of muscle on my arm, but it was still pretty skinny. And that's when shit took off for me, because I got to college and I didn't know that many people. And I had a lot of free time that I didn't have back in high school. And I was starting to hit the gym hard. And I mean, like 6, sometimes 7 days a week. And for like an hour and a half to 2 hours. And that's when I blew up. Went from 176 to well over 200 pounds, 205 probably. And I had a little bit of body fat sauce, but I put on so much mass that year, it was ridiculous. And the way that I did this, there was two things that contributed to this. Well, three things, but two main things. And the first one was I met my friend Chris, and he had been lifting for a while. I think he was a junior in college when I was a freshman. So he had 3 years of lifting experience on me, and he was huge. And I literally went up to the biggest guy that I saw in the gym, and I wanted to work out with him. And we started working out together every day. And I blew up as a result of that, just being around somebody bigger who was pushing me and just forcing me to level up and push more weight and go, the extra mile essentially. And then I had the college cafeteria, because I was living in the dorms at the time, gave me literally unlimited access to food. I could eat as much food as I wanted every day, didn't have to cook a lick of food, didn't have to clean a dish, and I could just eat my fucking face off. And that's exactly what I did. I went to that caf literally 7 times a day, in between every class, in between every down moment I had. Even if I wasn't eating, I was just in that caf getting ready to eat, because I knew if I wanted to make gains, I needed to eat. And this is when I started learning about nutrition. I was eating grilled chicken, I was eating rice, pasta, pita bread like crazy, hummus, just anything and everything they had. Eggs, omelets, hash browns, processed food, not processed food. I mean, I didn't know how to eat clean, but I knew that I needed to eat a lot, and I was probably eating at least 3,500 calories a day, I would say, minimally. And that put me in a surplus for over a year, and I was eating a shit ton, and I blew up. Working out hard, eating right, working out with the friend who was pushing me, I just made so many changes. Like, my body just blew up in a matter of 7-8 months. So let's fast forward a little bit. Sophomore year, kept doing the same thing, kept eating heavy in the calf, lifting heavy with these 2 friends I had. Junior year, I lived on my own in my own apartment, and that's when I started learning how to meal prep. And learning how to meal prep was difficult at first, because I was so used to and so dependent on the calf. I now needed to learn about how to properly balance my nutrition. And I started learning from my friend James about MyFitnessPal, about a food scale, and I had no background on this before. Everything I was doing before was just shoveling food in my throat and just eating as much as I possibly could. We used to call it the seafood diet, because you'd see food and you'd eat it. There was no, this is too many macros, this has too much fat. Like, you literally just ate like crazy. And that was what I did for the first 2 years of college. And then junior year, I started meal prepping, and I started eating like rice, ground beef, chicken, pasta a lot, sweet potatoes a lot, I made all my own food. And that's when I started learning about MyFitnessPal, tracking macros. I was watching a lot of Rich Piana. This was right before he died, so he was huge, and that was like my idol at the time. So obviously I wanted to get bigger, and I lifted at Lifetime that summer and actually made some serious gains. I think honestly that's probably the best my physique has ever looked, besides today, was that summer before junior year, because I didn't have a lot of free time, but I didn't have a girlfriend, and I just worked during the day, and I just lifted like a madman at night. And came to college again that junior year, kept making gains, but I learned how to meal prep, and that's what helped me a lot, because that's where I actually learned the importance of proper nutrition and how to create a meal plan for my diet and for my goals in order to achieve a certain result. And that's when I actually started learning. Continuing to senior year, I did the same thing, lifted heavy, did the meal prepping, and leading me up until today, 22, I've never been better at meal prepping. And it didn't happen overnight. It took me literally 2 years, maybe more, of trial and error, figuring out what worked for my body, figuring out what didn't work, figuring out the quantities I needed to eat, how to prepare the things, how to make my food taste good, because my food didn't always taste good. And, for lifters, that's not even our priority. We just know we need the calories. But now, literally, I love the food that I eat. It's so delicious, so good. I prep it every week. And now I'm actually getting into this point where I want to help other people with that. So I figured out what worked for me, did a lot of experimentation, trial and error, and now I'm actually starting to put all that knowledge into an online course and start recording a lot of it and start making a lot of slides talking about the different things that I did that helped me, like weighing out my food, using my fitness pal, doing weigh-ins every morning, how to create your meals. Like, think about it like a Chipotle bowl is what I tell people. Like, they ask you what kind of rice you want, they ask you what kind of meat you want, they ask you what kind of beans, the dressings. So I teach people, you can either do a sweet potato, rice, pasta for your carb. There's other options too. You can do chicken, you can do steak, you can do ground beef, ground turkey, and then you got all kinds of vegetables you can pick from, broccolis, asparagus, green beans, all kinds of stuff. And your fats, you got oils, peanuts, peanut butter, almond butter, all kinds of different stuff. So, and then the seasonings too are what really helped me actually make my food super tasty. So that's basically the short version of my fitness journey, and I absolutely love fitness. It's changed my life, and I would say the thing that's changed it the most is learning how to meal prep, because without proper nutrition, I still would have been that skinny kid that I was back in high school, that 120-pound kid struggling to get to 150. And now I'm in complete control of my weight. I'm in complete control of my muscle. I can add as much muscle to my frame as I want based on how much I can eat and how much I can cook for myself. And it's all a matter of discipline and commitment, because when you create that food on Sunday and you create those meals, you're basically setting your week up for autopilot. So all I have to do now, Monday through Friday, is go into the fridge, grab a prepackaged